Lois.
And I'm Stacey.
And you're listening to Whose Girl Are You? Today, we're going to attempt to talk about something that has been on my mind for quite some time. We have a tradition in our country and in the world where we give a tip. And tip culture has been really something I've been thinking about. So tips means to ensure prompt service, right?
Well, or if service is exceptional.
Right. But the original meaning was to ensure prompt service.
Oh, okay.
That's what TIPS stands for, or that's what I've always thought it stood for.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you make that up?
No, I didn't make that up. I think that's what it means.
I never questioned where the word origin came from.
Right.
So I think the interesting thing is how much people tip. Like, I've debated this with people at a restaurant. You know, what do you tip? When some of the restaurants have the tip included, if they're nicer restaurants, they just do, right?
Right.
You don't have a choice. That's just that.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other ones, they'll even on the bottom of your receipt put 15%, 20%, 25%, 30%. Like they'll put like a variety, so you'll know what that is without having to grab your calculator out and figure out your tip, which maybe people do that in their head. I grab my calculator.
Right.
Pull my phone out and always calculate it because I don't know. But just with, I haven't ever talked to you about it. What's your standard percentage that you go with in restaurants for tipping?
Usually about 20%.
Yeah, that's what I do too. 20%. I might tip above 20% if there's a couple reasons why I would, right? One, exceptional service.
Mm-hmm.
Two, my heart just goes out to the server for some reason. Maybe it's extra busy in there and she seems overwhelmed. Maybe she's pregnant. Maybe, I don't know, whatever might make me just feel like, I'm going to tip a little bit more right now for this specific server. But do you ever tip under?
Yes, I do. If the service is terrible.
Yeah. But will you still tip though? Do you always leave a tip? Even if the service is horrible, will you leave a tip? Or what about the food is terrible?
That's hard. That's hard.
Okay. Food's terrible. Service is good. Do you tip?
Yes, I do.
Yes. Because it's not their fault that the cook is bad, right?
Right. Right.
We, recently went to a restaurant I will not name, and my husband got the fish and chips, and he was like, what in the world? He was like, this is so hard to cut, and he's eating it and whatever. And then all of a sudden he's like, what is this? The thing was wrapped in plastic.
Oh my word.
They hadn't taken the plastic off, and then they just breaded it and fried it, and he had eaten some plastic. It was kind of like a really disturbing moment. So of course, my husband, who never will complain about his food or whatever, he'll just be like, I don't care. I just will never come back here again. Let's go. You know, I was like, you have to say something. So we told the server and they were horrified. The manager comes over and he didn't deal with it very well. In my opinion, he just was like, looked at it and was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how that happened. I'm sorry. And he's like, obviously you don't have to pay today. And he walked away. And that was the end of it. And it was like, what do you mean? Obviously you don't have to pay today. Like if I was that manager, I would have not only said, obviously we're going to take care of your bill today, and also here is like a gift certificate or something because we want you to come back and try it again. Like this is not going to happen again type of thing.
Right.
But there was none of that. So we still have the feeling of, do we ever really want to go back to that place?
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because I've always liked my food there.
Yeah.
And so that kind of wrecked it for me. But then we got no bill, so we didn't even know the price. And so we were both like, how much was yours? How much was yours? You know, do you remember how much like this and that was? Because we still wanted to tip the waitress.
Right.
Wasn't her fault.
Yeah.
So we ended up just giving a pretty great tip because we couldn't remember what the cost of the food was. So we didn't have to pay. So we just kind of threw some money down and walked away. But that was an interesting one.
So I Googled the term, and who knows if this is right? Because Google.
Yeah, go.
Where did the term tips come from? According to a well-known story, tipping originated in 18th century English coffee houses and taverns. Supposedly, patrons would put coins in a box marked to ensure promptness, or TIP. So not to ensure prompt service, like I thought.
To ensure promptness.
Right.
But the thing is that would be, wouldn't that be like you throw coins in the box beforehand to ensure?
Yes.
Which actually coffee shops still would be that way, right? Because you order your stuff and you pay, and then you can throw money right in the thing right there, and then you go wait for your coffee.
Right.
But in a restaurant, you don't tip until at the end.
I know. Exactly.
For most things. What else? Is there anything besides coffee shops where you tip before you get the product?
I don't think so.
Do you tip a bellman before or after?
I don't do trips where I have a bellman. Part of the reason I don't like to do trips where you have to tip the bellman is because I don't know what to tip them.
Right.
And that's why I wanted to talk about this, because I do not like tips. I do not like the whole tipping culture because I don't know what to give. I don't know what's appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And the pressure to tip is uncomfortable for me.
Okay, well, let me tell you this. If you go to Europe, from all of my extensive reading, not my extensive traveling, although I have been overseas, if you tip 15 or 20% in Europe, it's not only unnecessary, but it's considered culturally ignorant.
Oh, really?
So 10%, 5 to 10% tip is what's pretty much expected or thought to be given in Europe. So in the United States, I feel like the 20 to 25% is where we're at. And right now, with the way that inflation is in 2023, already I'm going to every restaurant, and every time I go, I feel like, have they redone this menu and jacked the prices again? It's getting to the point where it's a little ridiculous to pay that much for a burger.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're supposed to tip 20% on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to I don't eat out a ton, to be honest. Just like you don't want to go to a hotel with a bellman.
Mm-hmm.
How about taxi cabs and limo drivers? You ever go in any taxis or limos or anything?
I don't.
You don't?
No.
So you had to go in one today. Let's say like you went for a 20-minute car ride from your hotel to the airport in a limo. Like, how much would you give the guy?
I don't know.
I know. So you don't know. So you're stuck there all by yourself. Like, what's your guess?
I have no idea. I'd probably be Googling it in the back seat during my drive saying, how much do I tip a taxi driver? Because I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's appropriate.
I don't actually know what's appropriate either, but I've been with my dad and we've taken limos back and forth from the airport to the hotels and whatnot when we've gone to Vegas and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I've watched him slyly slip like a 20. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying, man, I think I would have only given 10.
Mm-hmm.
Just by, a gut, what I thought I would do, right? And like a bellhop, when they come and bring my luggage, first off, if they ask if I need help, I try to just be like, no, I don't want help. But if you turn your back for a second and it's too late and all of a sudden your bags are on there, you're like, you're not going to be like, take my bags off there, So you're just like, well, here's my room number, and they get up there and I usually just give them $5.
Yeah.
Whether that's right or wrong, I have no idea. But guess what? This is what I decided. I may not know what's appropriate at all times for tipping, but I'm going to give what do I have available and what do I think that would be worth?
Right.
I don't have to go off of what culture tells me I should tip, because then is that even a tip then? It's like over and above.
Right.
And
that's where the pressure comes in.
So I don't really allow the pressure to get to me. I tip when I want. I don't when I don't want. I tip big, tip small. I don't know. I'm all over the place. I have no method to my madness, except for restaurants.
Yeah.
I'm still stuck at that 20%, and only because that's what I was taught.
So to me, a lot better system would be businesses pay their employees what they're worth, pay them a good wage, and forget the tips completely. In every system, every business.
If only we could change policies and procedures in the world, that would be amazing. Because, that does make a lot of sense. Yeah, pay them what they're worth. The services are straight across the board. We don't have to guess, feel bad, wonder, feel uncultured, whatever the feelings are that people have. Because it's an uncomfortable thing when someone's staring at you and you're like, oh shoot, yeah, I got to tip you. You know, they're just going to stand there awkwardly. Here's the worst one. Have you ever gone into a bathroom where they hand you a towel?
I don't know.
It's the worst. Just don't take the towel. Just don't take it. Because then you're locked into contract pretty much. Then all of a sudden you're like, then now they handed you something, now you have to hand them a tip. Just walk right by them, don't make eye contact. That's my... just wash your hands and just wipe them on your pants. Just walk away.
Wipe them on your jeans and leave.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. See, that's so weird because I must be pretty uncultured because there are so many situations where I do not know what's appropriate or even if it's appropriate to leave a tip.
Can you think of any other ones that you're not sure about?
Well, I wouldn't have known the whole somebody hand you a towel thing.
Yeah. How about have you ever been like on a horse and carriage ride?
I think yeah. I think
like
that would be
Mackinac Island or something like that.
Yeah.
Do you tip that guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like a horse taxi, right?
Right.
So you have actually kind of been in a taxi. It's just only been a horse.
Horse and buggy days.
How old are you?
Older than you think, apparently.
Apparently. Back before automobiles. We'll ask Lois about all that. Back in my day. No, but really. Yeah, it's just, I feel like it's limitless. And here's the one that's been getting me lately. You go to a coffee shop. Not even a coffee shop. I've been to just like stores, like little, privately owned stores. I'm talking like touristy, back in my hometown. And you buy something, some homemade jam, whatever you're buying, stickers for your laptop, and they take your stuff, figure out the price, whatever, and then they turn the iPad around.
Mm-hmm.
And you have like a tipping function there.
Right.
And I'm like, no tip. Like, I'm in a retail store. I'm not tipping you to do your job.
Right.
It feels like, but even in the coffee shop now, when they turn it around like that, I don't know.
It makes it very awkward.
It makes it like you feel more of a pressure too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Take it a step further. You're in a retail store. This isn't really tipping, but it feels the same to me. So I'm just going to throw it out there. Would you like to round up your purchase to the nearest dollar for St. Jude's Children's Hospital?
Right.
And I'm like, no. And then, like, I feel like for a fraction of a second, I feel like I'm the worst person that I don't want to give money to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. What a good cause.
Right.
Or the Junior Association of Diabetes or whatever, the JDRF or whatever, which my daughter's a diabetic. And I'm just like, no, I'm not. I have decided straight across the board when it's not something I'm seeking to do. I'm not signing up for a 5K. I am not looking to help with this certain thing. I am not going to let people just systematically round every purchase I make up by the dollar. They do it at McDonald's now.
I know.
Or they try to.
Mm-hmm.
The only one I might consider is those banks that are like, do you want to round up all your purchases to the next dollar and that change goes into your savings account?
There you go.
I have seen like one of those programs before and I thought, yeah, it's like how your coin jar slowly grows and before you know, you count it and you have enough gas money to take a road trip or something.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to do that. Do you do that? Do you round up and donate?
It depends. You know what? I make the decision based on what cause they're raising money for. If it's something, out here we have Dornbeck or whatever, and I'm like, yeah. Or, it's something that I'm not interested in, and I'm like, no. So I go back and forth. I don't have a set.
I just went straight across the board no on all of them because I can't handle the mental energy of it all.
Right.
So I've just made the decision that I don't even let them finish their sentence most of the time. And I say, no, thank you. I'm not rude about it.
Yeah.
I'm just like, no, thank you. No, thank you. You know, no tip. Like we have to be able to, if we don't stand up for like how we feel about it, it's just going to get worse.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can imagine a time where they're just going to be like, if you shop here, we're just rounding you up for this cause.
Mm-hmm.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
Because 90% of people are on board anyway.
Right.
I don't know. It's probably an unfounded fear.
So what about a drive-through? A fast food restaurant drive-through?
Tell me about it.
Well, I'm not sure, but I think the first one out here that started that was Burgerville.
Mm-hmm.
You go through the Burgerville drive-through, you order through a speaker, you drive up to the window and hand them your credit card, and they flip the thing around and it says, how much tip are you going to leave? And I'm like, seriously?
Is there a button for none?
Yeah, there is.
Do you hit it?
Yes.
Have you ever tipped there?
No, I don't think I ever have. I don't go to Burgerville very often. There was a recent post on Facebook. Renee, if you're listening, who said something to the effect that, the next time I go to Burgerville, I'll be sure to take a second mortgage before I go.
Has the price gone just crazy?
They are crazy.
But even McDonald's is.
I know.
Have you been to McDonald's lately? The last time I went there, I was like, I'm not going here again. Cause I'm not going to pay this much money for this crappy of food. The only time I go there is to get one of those soft served ice cream cones.
Mm-hmm.
And I still, every time I go, I'm like the old lady who's like, I remember when these things were 99 cents. Now they're like $1.29.
Yeah.
Or what, $1.49, whatever they are. I don't even know.
Yeah.
They're still under $2, but.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I'll do though.
Yeah, exactly.
No, for a family, if you make the mistake of you're like, I'm going to go through the drive-thru and get an ice cream cone. Maybe I'll like text my family and see if they want anything. And all of a sudden your teenage boys are like, yeah, get me this and get me that. And your husband's like, get me this and that and add these McFlurries and whatever. You're just like, okay. And you like order all the stuff that your family of four wants. And all of a sudden they're just like, that'll be $58.25. You're
Right.
like, $58? I'm at McDonald's.
Right.
I like for 1 second thought of saying, just cancel that order.
Yeah.
But I wanted my ice cream cone and I felt a little silly. So I just ordered it and I just told the guys, not doing that again. Like we can go to a sit down restaurant for $20 more.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah. Or how about even Five Guys? You go to Five Guys, you walk up and order and pay. And then when it's done, they just shout your name across the room and you have to get up and like go and get your stuff. And they ask if you want a tip.
Yeah.
There's a place to leave tips and there's a place, I'm like, no, I'm not tipping you.
Yeah.
For what, yelling my name across the room?
Yeah. For me to get up and get my own food and go over and fill my own drink.
It makes no sense if there is no service being provided, then the basic service that you expect, like the food you paid for, I don't know why you would tip. That it makes no sense to me. And even in a coffee shop, and are those the little buggers that started it or what? Like if tip actually came originally from cafes in Europe or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that was like the origin story of it. Because even a barista in a coffee shop is not giving you really anything more unless they are serving you. Unless you are like sitting down at a cafe. Someone comes up, takes your order, brings you your order. Sure. Right. Go ahead, tip for that service, partly, but partly because of going back to what you said, they're not paying their people right. If you don't tip, that person is not even making anywhere near a living wage.
Right.
Like in Michigan, I think my family was just talking about it when I was up there this summer that I think that the wage for service in Michigan is still at that like super low mark of like $2 or $3 an hour.
Yeah.
Like they
well
have
under
to
minimum
get
wage.
tips.
Yeah.
Well under.
Yeah. So how does that work though in the state of Washington? Because
what do you mean?
Don't they get minimum wage at least?
I have no idea. I mean, when I was a server at Red Robin in Washington, we did not make minimum wage.
Okay. And that
was many years ago. 25 years ago.
Yeah. So we were just driving across the country and there was a big sign in a McDonald's window and it said something about we're hiring whatever, $17 an hour.
Yeah.
And this was, I don't know, like Montana or North Dakota or somewhere. It wasn't New York City.
It's saying here that a server makes $17.95 an hour in the state of Washington, but I don't know if they had to change that or And $100 tips per day.
Guaranteed?
No, it can't be guaranteed. It's like salaries by year of experience in Washington state.
Mm-hmm.
1 to 2 years of experience, you get $17.12 an hour. And it says in an average of $100 a day in tips.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, I mean, that was just like one site that I just pulled up or whatever. So,
right.
I'm looking up what states still pay servers $2.13 an hour. Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia. This is crazy. You think about this.
Yeah. And so for that, I totally get it. They have to have tips.
Here's the thing. They get you coming and going, right? They being
the man.
The people in a different, the 1%, I guess, or the politics of the land or whatever. Even you have to claim tips. They tax you on your tips.
I know.
So the one thing that I always have tried to do, if possible, and I don't always do it, but I try to, is if I'm going to tip, I tip in cash. Like I'll pay on card, tip in cash.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying, disclaimer, I am not saying scam the government, right? What I'm saying is they shouldn't be able to get you coming and going for every single penny, especially when there's times where there's a minimum, what is it? It's like you have to, I can't remember what the thing is. It's just like you have to claim a minimum of like 10% of whatever your, like if I was a server for an 8-hour shift and I ran $15,000 worth of product through my account or whatever you call it, my like server entry PIN number thing, then I had to pay 10%. I had to claim 10% of that as tip.
Right.
So hopefully you're getting 20% as tip because then you won't be, and if you have more than that, you're supposed to claim the full amount. And I'm telling you, I don't know anyone that really claims the full amount on tips because especially in the states where you're making $2.13 an hour. Because you got to figure out a way to live, right? So like, I'm not trying to endorse scamming the system, but also I'm just mad at the system.
I know. That's the thing is, how do we change the system?
I don't know. The whole thing has to burn down before we can rebuild.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I feel like we're well on our way. I feel like the fire is kindled.
Maybe.
As far as burning down.
Did you watch the presidential debate?
I did not. Did you?
I didn't either, but I was getting the highlights from a coworker of mine, and I'm kind of like bugged that I missed it. So I'm going to probably look on YouTube, see if I can find at least some clips of some of it. Sounded a little bit interesting, you know. And it's really there's a new generation trying to come up and say we're done with politics of old. Yeah. Like, we're sick of it. We're done with it. And these career politicians that you guys are in for 50 years and nothing's changing except for the lining of your pockets. Yeah. Like, we're sick of it.
Yeah, I get that.
The people are done. And so there's a little bit, I don't know. Trump didn't even go to it, I guess, because he's just like, I'm so far ahead in the polls, I don't need to go to this.
Yeah, I saw a commentary on that. Someone said that's going to come back to bite him.
We'll see. It might not. I'll definitely be watching the next one. After hearing about the first one, I think I'll be watching the next one.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm going to. I am so done with politics. Period. I'm just so burnt out.
No, I get it. Because you feel like there's nothing we can do about it, but also there's just, I'm not going to sit and watch Fox News every day or something like that, right? Like, I'm not doing it. I'm not watching the news. I'm not reading the news. I'm not like going to be, you know, my eyes are focused on heaven. As much as possible, because even when we were talking about politics and getting a little bit riled up, and I just said, you know what, Jesus still reigns. Like, the king is still on the throne. So all of this stuff, yeah, it's worthy of talking about and seeing if policy can change, and maybe we can get someone different that can be more beneficial for our country as a whole, for the middle class especially. Right. But I'm not going to get worked up about it, but I am interested enough to be a little bit in the know of a little bit of who's who and what's going on, even though I don't want to get too deep into it. So yeah, I can easily get entangled in it, and it starts to influence my
attitude and my outlook.
In a negative way.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like that.
Yeah, no, that's not good. And that's why I have to take it in small doses too, because I get too much into it and I can start feeling like that. Anything that's going to deplete me of like the fruit of the spirit that I'm trying to display in my life.
Right.
Is just not worth it for me. So I can look at it a little bit and it gives me something to pray about as well, right? Like if there's someone that I think is great, like whether they become president or not, I can still pray for that person for their noble cause and that the Lord would bless them in whatever endeavors. And even if they're not president, that they would be able to make some kind of impact on our society or something like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, knowing some of these guys by name isn't the worst thing in the world, but yeah, don't get so wrapped up in it that it becomes your identity and it negatively affects your relationships with others and your attitude toward the world. We have to be careful of that.
Exactly.
And we can't, even the tipping, we can't let that get us so riled up that, why can't policy change and this and that? As long as people are going to work for $2.13 an hour, people are going to work for, they're going to hire them for $2.13 an hour. I mean, it's always been that way, right? That's why unions have formed and things have happened over time. So, I don't know, unless people start protesting those wages in those states, I don't think anything will change about that.
Right.
As far as tipping, the only little bit I feel like I can do, like I said, is tip in cash and let their conscience do what they need to do. But giving them the option of being able to protect a couple dollars if possible.
So you brought up unions. I just saw a post about the teachers union, again, in Washington. Their contracts end August 31st, which makes zero sense to me. School is starting in a week after that.
Right. Contract should end in June or something.
Yes. So you have 3 months to negotiate and come to your agreements and everybody's ready for school in the fall.
Boy, that's strange.
Yeah. And so again, the teachers unions are, the word strike is being tossed around and I'm like, here we go again. It's crazy.
And once again, you're just like, thank God my kid's not in public school.
I know.
But not everybody has that option and you feel horrible for them because they're stuck with it.
I know. It's horrible. Feeling trapped in that and so to go back to tips, it's the same thing. I feel trapped in this obligation that I'm very uncertain about because I don't know how much. I don't know when is appropriate or when is not. So basically you feel like you just walk around with your hand in your pocket and, a 5 or a 10 or a 20 or a whatever in your hand ready to go at all times. And I don't like it.
I know.
It's so uncomfortable.
Don't ever go to Las Vegas.
I know, right? I have.
The tipping culture there. Ooh, golly.
I know, it's crazy.
And they're just trying to get you everywhere you go. Want a picture? Like if you take a picture with the dancers or whatever, then you're supposed to give money. You're supposed, everyone wants to take a picture and then you give that person. Oh, it's I don't buy into any of it. I act like a local and I just keep walking. I'm like, just keep walking.
Yeah. But then, okay, so you do the picture with the dancers. You tip the photographer. Do you ttip the dancers too?
Oh, you just don't do the picture. Didn't you hear me? Just don't do it. Just don't engage. Because
you don't need a picture with Elvis. You're fine.
No, it's not really Elvis.
It could be.
I'm not saying he couldn't be alive, but I'm just saying probably not standing on the strip looking that good.
Oh boy.
So yeah, I don't know what other tipping. I think we covered most of them. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else that you tip. Thank God. Can you imagine if you had to tip in the medical field? You got an x-ray and you're like,
Yeah.
I just got an x-ray the other day.
The clerk at the emergency room. I mean, they check you in.
Hey, I wonder if you slipped him a 20 if you get in quicker.
Oh my word. Right?
Maybe we should tip for prompt service.
Yeah,
what does TIP stand for?
To ensure promptness.
To ensure promptness. So I'll slip a 20 next time and be like, to ensure promptness. Slide it right under that glass window and they will get you Can
I be here only 4 hours instead of 8?
Oh, the waiting rooms in those places. Yeah. Actually, I was really pleased. I went in the other day because I did something to my, well, I'll just say it. So I kicked a stool. I kicked a bar stool.
Ouch.
And here's the best part about it. My daughter had texted me about something and I had just pretty much done it or whatever. And I said, or I just found out about it, that I had actually broken my toe. And I said, so my toe is officially broken. And she said, oh, OMG, what did you do? And I said, I kicked a bar stool. And she said, on purpose? I read the text and I was just like,
were you offended?
I was. But I took the time to find a GIF and send it to her, a GIF, whatever, and send it to her. That was just like shaking my head. And then she was just like texting me again, did you do it on purpose? And I was like, oh my goodness, no, I did not do it on purpose. It was an accident. But I did talk to someone yesterday that they asked me the same question. I said, you sound like my daughter. I said, does everyone think I'm a hothead?
Right.
Like, is this the mirror being held up to me that Stacey must have kicked the bar stool on purpose? Because she was so mad about something. God forbid people like look at me like that. Like, I think I got my temper under control many years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it would make more sense. My daughter might think that because she's seen me before God got a hold of me, right?
Right.
So I did slam some doors and throw some things, and in my anger, I had some anger issues, but I haven't done that. And like, most people don't know that.
Right.
So I don't know. Anywho, I say all that to say I was pretty pleased, like at the speed that I went through the waiting room to seen by the doctor to the x-ray place back into the waiting room to see the doctor to have it read. Like the whole thing all said and done was only 2 hours.
Wow. That's great.
That was pretty shocking.
Mm-hmm.
It still felt long, of course, you know?
Yeah.
And the fun thing was that there was a little boy in there who was probably about, I don't know, I would guess he was probably like 10 years old or something, who was in there for, he had done something to his finger in football and his finger hurt really bad. So like we were in the waiting room together and he gets called back and I get called back. And then the next thing you know, I'm down in x-ray and we're sitting in the x-ray waiting room together. And then we're back up in the other one waiting to get called back to read our x-rays together. So I felt like I was hanging out with him and his family the whole time. So we ended up being good friends by the end. I was like, what did you do? And you know, talking about his early football career and this and that. And
pass the time.
Taking bets on like, you know, whether I broke my toe or he broke his finger and why we think that or don't think that. And it was pretty hilarious. And one lady comes and sits down in the waiting room at one point and says something about my son. And I said, oh no, I don't know this kid. But the way I was talking to him made it appear like I was close with him, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you'd been friends for an hour and a half by that time.
Yeah, almost 2 hours, you know? So we went way back.
Yeah.
So anyway, sometimes ERs are fast. I didn't feel the need to tip, but you know, I don't know. I might try it if I'm in a rush one of these days, if I'm in the ER again.
Exactly.
But I think we covered most of the tipping. What? Limos, taxis, food, coffee, fast food.
So what about?
Oh no, we didn't. Hairdressers.
That's what I was just going to say.
Massage therapists.
Yeah. Nail salons.
Oh, we haven't even tapped into that whole beauty industry. Eyelashes.
So what do you think about that?
Oh, it's a tough one. So I'll just say this. I was trained as a massage therapist. Please, nobody call me. I am not currently working as a massage therapist, but it is a skill I have. I did work as one for a while. Tipping when I was in clinic was very nice because we didn't get paid to work in clinic when we were in school, but we were allowed to accept tips. And then working on my own, I would tell people, please don't tip. Like, this is the cost, pay the cost. You know, I know, everyone knows, you know, like I just.
Did people tip anyway?
Every once in a while, they wouldn't have change and they'd say blah, 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 but like I would just take it off the table, like as a thing. And so my massage therapist is great. And sometimes I tip her and sometimes I don't. And I don't have a method to my madness.
Right.
I literally, even as a massage therapist, I really don't know. Like I'm thinking about it and it's just like, okay, so if you get a 1 hour massage, do you tip $5? And if you get a hour and a half massage, do you tip $10? Or do you tip
Right.
$13.50. And then if you get a 2-hour massage, you tip 20. Like what, 10? Like I don't know is it a percentage of what they charge? So if they charge $100, you tip a percentage off that. So me personally, for food, I go by percentage. For beauty, I just go in $5, $10, $15, $20 increments depending on how much time I've spent there.
Okay.
I don't know why. No one's ever told me to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be completely wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I do.
Yeah.
And if someone does my hair and I like love it, like I'll probably tip higher because I'm just feeling so great. But if I get a hair thing and I'm not super thrilled, but I'm not going to say it.
Right.
Like it's not horrible. I've never gotten a horrible haircut.
Right.
But I might not tip as much.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just don't feel like it was worth it.
Right.
Like it's what I feel it's worth. It's like what I feel like doing. It's fully feeling based on
Right.
beauty.
Yeah.
What do you do?
I do kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
I've never had a terrible haircut either. But yeah, if it's really good, I feel like tipping more. And I agree. It's purely the emotional or the result. It's based on the result of it.
I wonder what percentage of people tip when they get their hair done.
I have no idea.
Or when they get their nails done, or when they get...
Because the whole beauty industry is just...
See, I'm not one that really gets my nails done. I did get my nails done this year. But, like, this is how low-key I am about my nails. I was like, do you do a thing that's just, like, cutting them, filing them, and buffing them? Like, I don't want any polish or anything. Can you just, like, make them...
manicure.
Yeah. But, like, no polish. And they were like, yeah. So...
Yeah.
That's what I did, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like that idea because I don't go very often and I don't like
upkeeping it then. You don't want to have to like take the polish off when it starts chipping or buy the polish to touch it up or whatever. So it was actually really nice. And they buffed them out so they're so shiny. Yeah. Yeah, it was nice. So I highly recommend that.
And you can do it yourself at home too to keep it up.
So I've always just done it at home, but one of my friends wanted to go get hers done, and I was just like, I'll go. Mm-hmm. Just to spend time with my friend more than to really get my nails done.
Exactly. But so I wonder what is the percentage at a nail salon? Is it a percentage? Or, I mean, you said based on time. You do that one based on time as well?
I don't do that enough to like have a strong opinion about it. Okay. So that one was like, I guess I've gone twice in the last year, both because I wanted to go with friends. And one of the places had the iPad with the tip thing. And I think I just clicked 15% or something. Yeah. Yeah. Cause I had paid for my nails and her nails and whatever as a gift for her birthday. Mm-hmm. And I was unsure. So I was like, I'll just go with kind of middle of the line here. It's not really super high, but it's not like Europe, right? It's not 5 or 10. Right. It's like still 15. So yeah, I don't know. I'm going to Google it really quick. I didn't look it up. Go ahead. Tipping in the beauty industry. Sometimes I wish we had a live going on so all my hairdresser friends could chime in. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Salon customers may be wondering if they need to tip their beautician, hairstylist, manicurist, or makeup artist. The short answer to this question is dun dun yes. Dun dun. Yes. If the customer was happy with the service, a 15 to 20% tip is expected. Expected. Oof. That's the word right there. But why would a tip be expected? Now, my paycheck is expected. Because you worked for it. A tip to be because you're contracted for it. Oh, it says this has not always been the case. Years ago, tipping was not customary in salons. In fact, some salons still do not expect their customers to tip. So this makes people ask themselves the following question. Is it weird to tip a stylist who travels to the customer's home to give a cut or treatment? What if the customer cannot afford to tip? Who exactly should I tip? The salon owner, the stylist, or the shampoo girl? Or all three. The only salons that have not picked up on tipping are old-fashioned salons in small towns. Well, that makes sense on why our confusion, because we're from small towns and rural communities. Right. So some stylists will say that while they do not expect a tip, it is always appreciated. And I would say that's always true. So even with massage, I didn't always say that, like anything about tips, I'd say nothing. And it was like not expected. I didn't get bent out of shape. If someone didn't tip, I was just like solid, you know, but if they did tip, it was like, oh, that's nice. Right. So whatever. And even in clinic, some people tipped and some people didn't. And it was just like a happy surprise, but not like upset if they didn't. It was what it was, you know?
Right.
Customers should not tip if they feel as though tipping a stylist is ridiculous.
I think tipping everyone is ridiculous. Can I just go with that? We're a little...
How about this? Except that tipping is customary in the U.S. and add it to the overall cost of the service. I mean, they could. I mean, if one cannot afford to tip, they may want to switch to a less expensive stylist. So a 20% tip is expected if you had excellent service. Good service, 15. Holy moly. The person who washes or dries your hair should get a tip of 5 to 10. I would never tip them. I've never tipped them.
Yeah, I haven't either. Usually the places I've gone to, it's the same person. The stylist does everything. Cut, color, wash, blowout, whatever. Everything.
Yeah. So a lot of places that I've gone to, that's the case as well. But this place that I've been going to lately, now I'm rethinking whether I should go there.
Right. You should have been tipping the whole time.
This place I'm going to now, they, part of the reason I wanted to start going, and I do tip the stylist there. Like when I'm paying my bill, I add a tip.
Yeah.
And it usually it's sort of loosely percentage based. Like if I'm just getting a cut, it's this much money. And if I'm getting a cut color, it's this much money. And I'm going to tip more if I got a color. But that's partly based off of time too, right? So it's like.
Cause you're there an hour and a half instead of a half hour.
But listen, this place, you get in there and they ask you if you want like a coffee, tea, or water. They have like a nice little lounge area.
Yeah.
They then bring you over to whatever. They might send you over to shampoo and someone else might shampoo you. You might get a cut if you're going to have it set in a certain or you need to go under the dryer. You go into a separate room with this fireplace and they'll ask you if you want another beverage while you're in this room.
I think
I'm telling you, I tip at the end when I pay, but I'm not walking around flashing 5s and 10s.
Yeah.
I don't see anyone else doing that either. Maybe they do. Maybe the tips that are given that's what I'm wondering. Cause in restaurants that they do that a lot of times. Do you know this? Waitresses have to share tips with cooks.
Mm-hmm. Or sometimes hostesses.
And hostesses. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, that's definitely the way it is. So.
Mm-hmm. Dishwashers.
Which in some ways is good.
So that tip that you're giving the waitress.
It's not just for her.
It's not just for her.
Mm-mm. So, I don't know. I guess if you go to a fancy salon in a big city, you're supposed to tip. And if you go to a small town one, tipping's okay. But if you don't, it's fine.
Yeah. And
all my small town friends in beauty are like, shut up.
Yeah, right? Right. I don't know. I'm uncomfortable with the whole thing. I wish it would just go away.
Sure. Just charge me what you need to make.
Yes. And I want to wear a sign on my sleeve that says, I don't tip. Nothing against you. Send me the bill and I'll pay it. Give me the bill and I'll pay it. Don't make me guess or feel pressure or feel awkward and uncomfortable. We just recently did a family trip to Minnesota for a week, and I asked the lady that runs the place before, when we were setting it up, I had called her to give our deposit. We paid half as a deposit to hold the place. And I asked her because they do bedding changes. They're there for a week, so they do bedding changes one time in the middle, and they give you new, if you need restocked on anything or whatever. Mm-hmm. And she said something about the gratuity. There's a gratuity envelope in each cabin or something to that effect. And I said, can you do me a favor? Will you just please tell me what do people normally pay to stay there for a week? Mm-hmm. What's an appropriate tip for using this cabin for a week? and they're going to restock my toilet paper and my paper towel and give me new trash bags and change the bedding if I want it, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, most people tip $25 to $75 a week. And I said, thank you for telling me that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Because now I have sort of a ballpark.
Right.
Because I'm looking at the bill going, I don't know what to give. You know, we paid over like $8,500 or something for the place for a week, for 4 cabins for a week. And I'm thinking, you go 10%, you go 20%. Well, we're talking lots of money.
So thankfully you were just like, no, it's more like $200.
Yeah. And we left more than that. We left them a good tip, but they went over and above for us.
But it's nice to know, you know, let's even take a step into church.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, pastor marries your kid. Do you tip the pastor?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Now, it's not called a tip. When you get into church, when you get into ministry, it's called honorariums and things of this nature.
Yep.
So, you know, someone comes to speak at your church that doesn't normally come to speak at your church.
Mm-hmm.
Do you give them an honorarium, and how much? Mm-hmm. You know, if someone goes over and above helping with a funeral service.
Right.
You know.
Then you have, you know, the people who are helping with the food. The people who are helping with the music.
I mean, it's unlimited. Like, how many people are involved? So, like, do you start giving as like a thank you type thing, you know?
So, traditionally, in the Apostolic Lutheran culture, say the people that work in the kitchen at a wedding, there's usually the bride's family usually does some kind of bag with a gift card in it and a little thank you note, or a thank you note with a gift card just in the envelope. Sometimes they'll give, so if they do like flowers on the tables for the food, they'll send a flower basket home with you or a vase home with you with flowers with a small thank you. But then you have the same question. It always comes down to
how much?
How much? You know, you have 10 people working in the kitchen.
Yeah.
You give them $50 a piece. I mean, they're there for hours. Some of them work all day they're there early. They're preparing food. Sometimes they're there the day before preparing food.
Around here, we've stepped a lot into the, people hiring caterers.
I know.
For weddings. Like, that's just.
We haven't here.
People have started doing that. Yep.
Probably because it's cheaper.
So, I mean, I didn't have the money for that when my daughter got married. Right. And so I asked some people that I knew pretty well for various reasons, but like my daughter didn't, like wouldn't be someone that would be primary in her wedding. And if I had all the stuff, if they would help, you know, put it out and keep it hot and whatever. And I think I ended up, cause I was on a shoestring budget for that whole thing and trying to make, you know, all the dreams come true with a small budget. And I ended up, it was end of September, so we were coming into fall, winter in New England. And so I made...
Can I guess?
Flaxseed packs.
I was going to say flax packs.
I made flax packs and put together a nice gift bag with like a flax pack and a handwritten thank you card specific to that person. And I had bought each one of them an apron that they could wear there so they didn't get anything on their clothes. And then, you know, told them for sure, like after everyone goes through the line, please just leave it and come sit down and enjoy the festivities. I don't want you stuck in the kitchen type of thing. And I don't know. It was, you know, there was no money changed hands.
Right.
You know, I've done weddings where I've emceed weddings and at times just gotten a really nice handwritten thank you card. Thank you so much for helping us with our wedding. And that it's just, I would say that if nothing else, like if your budget doesn't allow it and whatever, or you don't feel comfortable with it, there's something to be said about a handwritten card. That is done ahead of time, that like the person is thoughtful and thankful that you're helping participate in this way to make their special day happen. Whether it's to bury a loved one or to get married, you know, just some form of thanks like that. Right. Like, we recognize you. We thank you for that. And I've also gotten gift cards for $25 to a store that they know I like. I've also gotten $100 cash. I've also gotten nothing.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, regardless if money is given or not, a handwritten card is, I think, the one thing you don't neglect.
Yeah, I agree.
It means you're taking the time.
Yeah. But just to do a wedding, you have the pastor.
Do you give money to the pastor?
Yes.
Yes.
In a card.
What do you think the going rate when your kid gets married and the pastor's officiating?
That's a good question. I don't remember what we gave for our kids.
I was just asking my husband about this the other day, and he said, well, I don't know, but when Ray married us 25 years ago, I remember I gave him $100, and that was 25 years ago.
Yeah. I know. And the same with the pastor. They're doing, and I know they're being paid to do the premarital counseling and whatever. That's part of their job.
Right.
But still, it feels like I don't know. But you know what? It's never ending. Because, you have the pastor, you have the musicians, you have the sound techs, you have the food people, you have the cleanup people, you have the decorators, you have the people who are helping with organization and like the coordinators, the beauticians, what else?
What do you think the cost of a wedding is these days?
Oh my word. You know what? Our girls' weddings had a budget and it was not extravagant.
Mm-hmm. It was beautiful, I'm sure though.
Yeah. They were beautiful and they were special, and each one it suited their personalities very well, their nature, like the style and the whatever. But I look at the average cost of a wedding and think, like, what?
I have heard some prices thrown around on how much people have spent for weddings, and I just about want to, I have the hardest time not just going wide-eyed and my mouth dropping open when they say it.
I know.
Are you serious right now?
I know.
And then I have to realize some people live in a different tax bracket than I do.
I know.
And that doesn't sound like a crazy number to them. And if they want to do it, by all means, it's just that we all need to know our place in the world. And if your place in the world is not in one of those families that can afford that kind of thing, lower your expectations. And like you said, it can still be beautiful. You're just going to scale it down.
Yeah. So I've been waiting for the day. Maybe it'll come in my lifetime. Mm-hmm. Weddings have, in my opinion, gotten so out of control. I mean, my daughter's weddings, the bride's dress in an upscale wedding is going to be 2, 3, 4 times what my daughter's whole wedding cost.
Yeah.
The bridal dress is going to cost that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. For an hour and a half, and it's done.
Yeah. You're not Princess Diana.
No,
come on now. You are so-and-so from some small town somewhere. You don't need to.
Right.
The whole world's not watching.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm waiting for the day when somebody sensible says, we're getting married after church on pick a day. Mm-hmm. Do you have a midweek service? Do you have a Sunday evening service? Do it Sunday morning. Who cares? Right? But we're going to have a cake. Do it on a Sunday where there's a meal already.
We don't do meals.
I know you don't. We do.
Get married at Vancouver Church.
Yeah. Or Hawkinson. Either one. Hawkinson does more meals than Vancouver does. But anyways. Yeah. Hawkinson does meals twice a month, at least.
Wow.
5th Sunday, there's also a meal. So
if any of those Hawkinson women are listening, you guys are rock stars, because that's a lot of work.
They are rock stars. They do it. Great job. Vancouver does once a month. So that's awesome too. But pick a meal Sunday, provide something a little extra for the meal so that it's a little more special than just, chicken casserole. Buy a cake, wear a nice white dress, and the groom wears a suit, and maybe they have a little, color scheme for the best man and the maid of honor, and you stand up and you get married. And then you go have dinner.
Yeah.
Because it's about getting married. It's not about the wedding.
You know when that happens, when earlier when we were talking about how how in the world are all these policies going to change? How is this going to right itself? And I said, it all has to burn down first before we can build it again. I feel like with inflation and the way that things are right now, people are feeling it for sure, but I think people still have some money in the bank. I think what's going to happen is when things get really rough and there isn't the availability to do it, people will still start doing stuff a little bit simpler because of necessity and realize it's just as great. I just went to a wedding not that long ago. I think I was helping. My husband and I think we're doing something at the wedding. Anyway, there was 0 decorations. We literally like pulled up the screens. So all you saw was the big cross window. We put black divider things in front of all of our music equipment. So it was just like a black backdrop with that big cross. There was no arbor, no nothing. The pastor gets up there. The bride and groom get up there. They each had 2 people standing on either side, I believe. 2 or 3 maybe. But simple. Played a song over the speakers, like from YouTube or whatever song they had picked. They walked down. They got married. And I was sitting up in the booth watching this whole thing, and I thought to myself, it was such a beautiful wedding. There was no bells or whistles to the whole thing, like 0. And it was just so pretty because it's so focused on the bride and groom and nothing took away from that. And I just was locked into like the expressions on their faces and just the moment that they were in and about how God orchestrates those kind of moments.
Joining them.
Yeah. And it was just this, I was going to say, I think I have never seen such a simple, beautiful wedding in my life. Yeah, and then they did have a little bit of a bigger like reception outside under a tent, and it was more,
Party
the tables
atmosphere.
were a little bit more decorated, and there was a little bit going on out there, but still not like out of control at all though. Like really, just really beautiful and well done and simple. And I wouldn't have expected any different knowing, I don't really know the bride, but I knew the groom really well. And it made sense why, that he would be one of the ones that would be able to pull something like that off and do that. Yeah. So everyone says it, right? Oh, I'm just going to have a simple wedding. And then you're like, tell me about it. And they're like, so I'm going to get married in this field. And then, and it's just like, okay, stop. Unless you are not having any seating and you're not inviting very many people and you don't need any kind of speaker system and you're not having any special musicians. If it's literally like a pastor and you guys in your immediate family standing in a field, that's simple. Yeah. You get beyond that. Wedding in a field is not simple at all. It'd be way simpler if you get married in the church.
Yes, exactly.
So I want to come back of why doesn't everyone just get married and have the reception in the church? Why these special venues? Why this? And I don't want to be all critical either. There's brides out there that are just like, I've dreamed about this my whole life or whatever, but I don't know. We're getting a little bit off course because we were talking about tipping, but same thing. You go back to it. You do need to consider if you're doing all of that stuff. I think you do.
Pay for it.
I think you pay for it. I think, I think the going rate to pay a pastor for getting married, if you think about $100 25 years ago, I would say it's like closer to the like $200 to $500 range, depending, because they're spending all that time marriage counseling and then they're spending an entire like night before for rehearsal and then they're spending the entire day for the wedding. Like you've asked them to give up an entire weekend and many evening nights with their families. And of course they're happy to do it and it's part of their job, but I still think, bless them in that way. It's like one of the extra over and aboves that they do to help you get a good start in your new married life. Right. I don't know. And same thing, sound techs, musicians, whatever, like give them the handwritten card, if that's all and they're good friends of yours and whatever. And that's this is where the difference is. If they're really good friends and they're like, absolutely not, do I want anything? Still give that handwritten card. Okay. Yeah. If they are people you don't know, they're not good friends of yours who are doing you a favor for your wedding.
Quote unquote, hiring them.
And the thing is people don't act like they're hiring because they don't like come with a bill. But I started even for things I've gotten so busy, right? Like if someone's doing they want a sound tech. Yeah. For the wedding, it's $100, and for the reception, it's $100. Because some people just want it for one or the other. Yeah. And that's what it is because they have to also go to the rehearsal and they have to be there for that whole day.
Vancouver has the same system set up, and it's actually in when you rent the building. Yeah. It's this much is going to the sound tech, this much is going to the kitchen head person who has to organize and do all the food and whatever. I think cleaners may be in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And cleaners are optional depending on if you want to do it yourself. And then you have a list that you have to sign off on the dotted line and say, now we'll do it ourselves. And it's like, here's the list. You got to complete it.
Yep. Because we're having church tomorrow morning and it needs to be done.
Yeah.
Or else Stacey gets there and has bad dreams about having to clean up before church starts.
Yeah. For very valid reasons.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, there's that whole tipping culture too, you know, and in all respects, it kind of is a tip because it's not something that is mandatory unless a church has made it mandatory.
Yeah. Right.
A lot of times it's like, here's a recommended what someone would give. And obviously it's all situational. Like people don't need to feel guilty if they're like, oh my gosh, they're listening to this and they're like, I don't have the money to pay a pastor $200, $300 or whatever. Like that's fine. You know, do you have $50 and a nice handwritten card? I mean, something. I'm just saying like, there should be for some of those key players that just look at how much extra time they're spending. And unless they're like your best friend or like your closest family friends, like you really should consider monetary, tipping for those people. And like you said, musicians, kitchen, like who's going over and above spending their time doing something that they don't have to do.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, but yeah, it could be limitless. Oh, if you start doing all the beauty, like you said, you're doing hair and makeup and personal attendant and
yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy. I only had one daughter and she's married, so whew, good deal.
Yep. Mine are married too.
All your girls are married. Yeah.
Yes.
So we can speak to this because we're like, we don't ever have to eat any humble pie because we're never going to do anything different. We're like, we're done. We did it this way. So, you know.
Yep. It's done.
Yeah. If you have granddaughters, by the time they get married, I'll be curious to see what it's like. Yeah.
Maybe we'll be back to the simple wedding in the church.
Well, you know, even think about, I do know one of my sister-in-laws actually got married in her mom and dad's living room.
Yeah.
And it was just her parents or her dad because mom was gone and his parents and the pastor. Mm-hmm. That was it.
Mm-hmm. And they got married.
And they got married and they're still married and they just had their fourth kid. And, you know, it's like, I don't know. It doesn't have to be all that. If you can't afford all the tips, just get married in your living room. Done.
Yeah, exactly. Or stand up on a meal Sunday and just get married.
And then go out to eat at McDonald's. It's only $58.
I know, right? Don't go to Burgerville because it's double that. Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah. I don't know if I can think of any other. It's like every time I'm like, yeah, I think we covered everything. And then I'm like, oh, what about beauty? Oh, we covered everything. Oh, what about church?
Yeah.
Oh, I think we covered everything. What about travel? I don't know. Like, I mean, we did a lot of the travel, but I don't think SkyCap. Like when they take your luggage on the curb, like at PDX.
Yeah.
You ever do that?
Right. No. I do not. Cause
you tip them? Thing. Yeah. I mean, they're pretty much like a bellboy of the sky, right? Like, so.
Yeah. No, you're supposed to.
I mean, it can start right at the curb.
Yeah. No, it started before you got to the curb because you had a taxi ride to get there.
Right. Next time you should take a limo from Amboy to PDX and then you should get the SkyCap to haul your luggage in for you.
My bill would be double what it is.
And then
travel.
You should fly first class. Do you tip in first class? Because are they like waitresses? I don't know. I've never flown first class. Have you?
I have.
Oh.
It was an upgrade. It was unfortunate. I got to tell you the story. It was hilarious. We went to Las Vegas with a concrete
convention.
It was the concrete convention, but one of the pump companies here took some of their better customers, paid their way to go to the concrete convention. So we went on through Al's business. We got down there. We're flying home. I think it was on the way home. I'm trying to remember if it was the way down or back. I think it was the way home. And I mean, everybody had partied all weekend. There were tipsy people on that flight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the flight attendant comes back and taps us on the shoulder and says, "We need your seats. Would you like to move to first class? I don't know why they needed our seats. Somebody else was, I don't know. They
You probably had a criminal being transported on your plane and the marshal needed to sit there.
I don't know who it was, but we got moved to first class and it was very different. I didn't tip anybody. It was a 2-hour flight or hour and a half flight or whatever it is from Vegas to Portland. It was very short. No meals, no, but it was still like a little bit weird.
I looked it up and it said flight companies discourage tipping to flight attendants.
Wow.
Except for Frontier.
Oh, Frontier, you pay for every service.
Yeah. And then when the baggage handlers at the airports that take it at the curb, the recommended tip on that is $2 for your first bag and $1 for every bag after that.
Okay.
So it's kind of reasonable. Maybe you ought to use them. And it's easy to figure out the math on that, right?
Yeah, right.
I got 5 bags. Like,
yep.
$6.
Yep.
No problem. So I don't know. I guess maybe one of the things to do is really look it up and get a consensus. Google's kind of amazing, right? You can be like, how much should you tip a limo driver from the airport in Vegas to the Aria,
Yeah. Yeah.
And see what they say.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can just
Very
have
helpful.
that built into your trip and maybe figure it out before you go so that you're like, okay.
No sticker shock.
Yeah. And then I guess you better just hit up the ATM and get a bunch of 5s and 10s so that you're just ready and then just don't stick them all in the slot machines or something. Actually, you can't anymore.
No,
I don't think.
You just swipe your card now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, unless you go down to Old Town, you still hear the clink, clink, clink of coins.
Yep. You got it.
That place is sketch.
Yeah, it is. Last time I went to Vegas, I swore I'd never go back.
Yeah.
I was not. It gets worse every time I go. And I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm never doing this again in my life. I don't care what kind of convention is there. I'm not going.
Yeah.
Find another venue, man.
Yeah, there's so many other places that could be better because it's gotten, I hadn't been there in 15 years or something. And then I went back last year and I was shocked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, ours was a few years ago too, since we were there.
Yeah, I don't recommend that
gross.
as a travel destination, to be honest.
I don't either. So thank you for chatting about tips with me because I don't have any better answers than I did when we started other than
I don't either. And my biggest fear is that people are going to listen to this and be like, Stacey's a cheapskate.
No, I don't think so. Because anybody who knows you have a generous heart. You do.
Yeah.
But the pressure of how much, what kind, who.
Right. Because people that
how
know me
often,
also know that I don't like to be bullied into a corner. Like, I'll push back hard on it. Like, don't try to tell me. Yeah.
Bully tip culture. That's the title right there.
Yeah. Like,
I
don't bully
like
me.
Bully tip culture.
And if they're trying to manipulate in some way to force a tip, like, I push back on that.
Yeah.
And maybe it's my own personal stuff. I probably should do some more research on it, but I do know if I go to Europe, I'm only tipping 5 to 10%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which sounds so great.
I know. Sounds so easy and cheap.
I think we should just adopt Europe's culture like that. I think we should bring that over to the US.
Yeah.
I think we should just start.
That's the first step. And then the second step is just eliminate tips altogether.
Right. We need to wean off the tipping system.
Yes. Totally. I am signing up. Where do I start picketing? That's why I said I want to wear a sign that says I don't tip. It's just send me the bill. I'll pay it.
Yeah. It's always fun talking to you. It at least gets me to think about things that maybe I'm just reacting to and not thinking about. So I'll give it some more thought.
Yeah.
The next time I'm going to do something different.
Yeah, I agree.
Hopefully a tipping situation doesn't catch me unawares anytime soon though.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Because it happens. It's just all of a sudden you're just like, what?
Yeah.
You feel it.
Yep. and it's awkward.
Uh,
So thank you so much.
yeah, thanks to you. Talk to you later.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.